And welcome inside the Rowdy Studios for today's Rowdy.com Big Three. It's Bob Pockrass Tuesday. That's why Bob Pockrass is joining me, Bassmasters, and him, Buzz Cutler.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Let's talk about some NASCAR issues. Issue number one would be what?
Well, it's got to be tires. Both Steve Letarte and Dale Jr. were pretty dismissive of the tire situation after the race. Obviously, they didn't perform very well. But, I mean, this is a new tire. It doesn't fall off. There's really no breakdown of the rubber. I mean, is there an issue here?
Well, I guess it depends. If you run well, you like the tire.
Right.
If you don't run well, it's got to be the tire, right? I mean, that simplifies it. Look, Goodyear changed the construction of the tire a little bit, which impacts how the car handles. Junior couldn't get his car to come off the corner very quickly, and so he struggled to pass people. And so, it takes there's an adjustment period, and a period that Junior really was getting along well with the tire. He was friends with the tire early in the season,
right?
But last 4 or 5 weeks, maybe not so much.
Well, let me ask you this question, Bob. In general, they've gone with a different theory this year on the tires? Has Goodyear been building the tires in general? Because obviously tires are different at every track, but I get the feeling that overall there's less fall off in the tires this year. We're seeing a lot more track position races.
There's a little bit of that. Maybe that has to do with the different front ends a little bit, and maybe how the cars are set up more than what Goodyear's done with the construction of the tire, because really how much wear is more the compound, and the compound is like the front part of the tire,
right?
Like the part that meets the road,
right?
So I don't know how much this has to do with tire wear or not. Goodyear's goal is to make sure that tires last a full tire run, and right now they're lasting 2 or 3 tire runs at times.
And that to me makes it throws a sport a little bit out of whack when you don't have fall off in the tire.
Right, because now you can make your choice to do fuel mileage and not necessarily maybe have to worry about whether the tires go bad.
Issue number 2, Greg Erwin left the 16 team over at Roush Fenway. A week later, finds himself over at the 43. Now, first of all, is what we heard true that Erwin initiated the split with Greg Biffle?
I haven't heard that from somebody at Roush, so I can't tell you for if that really is true. When you're struggling like they were struggling, I don't know who says what first, but
right.
If Greg was so upset. If Biffle was so upset with Erwin that Erwin said, "I'm out of here," well, who initiates it? Is it Biffle showing his displeasure?
Right, and Erwin can't take it anymore?
Right.
Who gets the credit or blame for that?
Exactly.
Well, here's the other question. I think A.J. Allmendinger is the guy who gets Greg Erwin now. Mike Shiplett is out of there. But if you look at A.J.'s last 5 races, he had 4 top 15s, which isn't bad for the 43 car.
It's not bad, but... I guess
maybe it's just a chance to upgrade,
Greg
right?
Erwin has won races,
right?
And Mike Shiplett seemed to have, him and AJ seemed to work pretty well together, but maybe they just got to a point where they weren't getting any better, and they got to a point where maybe they thought a change would help them a little bit. So I think Shiplett will be around somewhere else. I don't think he's seen his last days as a crew chief either. I mean, look what he did with Allmendinger.
Yeah.
Kind of. After Allmendinger's 2 bad years with Red Bull, and then kind of a so-so year at whatever it was called when he first was it Richard Petty Motorsports when he first joined. I can't even remember. But
Gillette Evernham, I don't know.
But since they were paired up since August 2009, I mean, you look at it and you say, hey, that guy's done a pretty good job.
Issue number 3.
Now, issue number 3 has got to be RCR. For the past 2 races, Richard Childress Racing hasn't been a factor at all. Hasn't even really shown up, including Kevin Harvick.
Well, Jeff Burton did what? He had like 5.
He was actually pretty good at New Hampshire.
What does that tell you? Jeff Burton was the strongest car at New Hampshire.
Should you be concerned if you're an RCR fan?
No, not yet.
On the other hand, Junior fans should panic.
Junior fans should panic. He's had lots of bad weeks. I don't care how many times he's been wrecked. But if you're RCR, I think you wait till Indy. That's been a place that's treated you pretty well.
Yeah.
And see what happens there. Maybe they just, the thing about Harvick is that he can experiment with things. They can kind of mess around with stuff. The only people who are panicking at RCR are probably Boyer.
Well, that's the interesting thing, Bob. If you think about, say, Kevin Harvick experimenting with stuff, right? There's a balance in the team with how the thing functions as a whole, and you wonder if one team going off on a slightly different road, does that potentially throw some of the other teams off?
Maybe it's just the tires.
It's
And
the
they didn't know they
tires.
said anything.
Blame the tires.
I think it's Kyle Busch's fault.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You're
I
gonna
mean,
blame Kyle Busch for everything, don't you?
Well, from Kevin Harvick's perspective, yes, I am. Now, Kevin Harvick is what, on double secret probation?
I guess, according to Kevin, he was told at Michigan that if he touches Kyle Busch, he could be parked.
Their probation's over.
Officially, the probation is over, but he's been told, and this kind of brings you back to what does probation mean? And where, look, there's no rule in NASCAR that says you have to be on probation before you can be penalized more.
Right.
So, the fact is, well, I wasn't on probation. Not an excuse.
What if Kyle Busch touches Kevin Harvick? Does Kyle Busch get parked?
Depends on if he touched him in an inappropriate way.
Wait, now let's not go there.
The thing is that, and again, NASCAR is pretty much telling us, well, if there was a warning in a hauler, we're not going to, what happens in a hauler stays in the hauler. So,
Right,
this is the way I read it. Kevin Harvick at Pocono harassed Kyle Busch.
Pretty blatant.
He got out of his car and said that he owes Kyle Busch one, and his owner has punched Kyle Busch. So if
NASCAR's kind of saying, look, dude.
So NASCAR can't rely on the owner
right.
really to say, hey, Kevin, don't do anything to Kyle Busch.
Right.
So I think NASCAR was worried, hey, these guys run up front. If they mess around intentionally, it could take out a lot of other cars, guys who are trying to get in the chase. And that's not what they want. That's not what they want boys have at it to mean. They want boys have at it to mean that if I nudge you to get by you, that guy can nudge you back to get by him. And
right.
that, and if this guy keeps chopping down on you, if you want to take things into your own hands,
you can't.
Be careful about it.
Right.
You're going to put that judgment in NASCAR's decision.
But Kevin Harvick can't nudge Kyle Busch out of the way.
No, because this is the deal. I think what's the difference between a racing incident and intentional if Kevin Harvick hits Kyle Busch? Because Kevin Harvick has already been out there saying, I owe Kyle Busch one.
Right.
So even if he hits Kyle in a racing incident, you have this already what's been said, and you're like, well, this has to be considered intentional. Now the question will be, what happens to Tony Stewart next time he blocks somebody, or he dumps somebody for blocking, right? Will NASCAR take what he has said in the past and say, okay, we're not giving you the benefit of the doubt?
Well, if he does it over and over again, maybe so. All right, that's our take on the 3 big issues of the day. They've randomly chosen 3 big issues of the day for Bob Pockrass.
But they're really big.
They are big. That's old Buzz Cutler over there.
I'm younger than you.
Yeah, and I'm really old, Bassmasters. We'll see you next time.
We're both older than Bob.
Yeah. Young blood. We call him young blood.
Rowdy.com. Say it like it is.
Say what like it is?
Rowdy.com.